The Legislature Today is brought to you in part by
The Legislature Today show continues. Find us always online at GreatPlainsNews.com, GreatPlainsNews.com. And don't forget, we're live at the Peacock Alley American Grill and Bar, the National Cattlemen's Association Beef Innovator of the Year, with great specials. Come on down to the Peacock Alley. And now back to the Legislature Today with your host, Dale Wetzel.
This is Dale Wetzel. This is the Legislature Today program. We're coming to you from the Peacock Alley American Bar and Grill in downtown Bismarck, North Dakota. We have with us Representative Keith Kempnick, Vice Chairman of the House Appropriations Committee. We have with us Representative Roscoe Striley, a Republican from Minot, who is also a member of the House Appropriations Committee. And we have just joining us Mr. Alan Fair. He's a Republican from Dickinson and a new member of the North Dakota House. Representative Kempnick and Representative Striley, we were talking during the break about how the legislature's budget right now is, I don't know, $600 million out of balance, but at the same time we have enormous reserve funds that frankly we could dip into and solve the problem with the stroke of a pen, and I imagine that there's an enormous temptation to do that. Let's talk about that and what the implications of that would be. I mean, well, to what extent do you make your reserves smaller so you can feed your spending habit, so to speak?
Well, Dale, and that as we were mentioning, we do have, obviously, there is some. We have the SIF fund. We also have there's some other. We got the water resources, and basically that money has been spoken for and stuff on it. But that was $500 and some odd million for the Water Resources Trust Fund, and we've got a lot of funds that we've stuck away over the years, and mainly because in the past we've usually had very small numbers to work with. The SIF fund, as it came over from what was projected for the ending balance of that fund at the end of 11-13 was about $1.4 billion in that. The governor spoke for basically half of that, and we've sent out some of that money already on it. Well, actually, the road money was ending fund balance money, but we've basically spoke for about half of that money in the governor's budget. There was about $700 and some odd million left there. There's a lot of bills, and they're still floating around to capture some of that money yet, and this is all projected money, though, too. It isn't in the bank, and so, but if you want to treat the numbers, and you could just basically make a transfer and balance a budget today. But the problem is you'd basically zero out the SIF fund too, so you wouldn't, that's basically our piggy bank would be zeroed out too. And so going into next session, the 15-17, you'd basically start from zero in that fund again and stuff on it. And that's basically what we did this last session, which when you're dealing with mineral resources gets to be problematic because, like I said, none of this money's been collected yet. It comes in quarterly. It's not that it's not probably going to show up in some form or number. But if you take anything, and like today, they had the China showed a weak economy, so oil dropped down to $87 a barrel. And if you had something would happen and that money wouldn't start showing up, it'd cause some problems and stuff on it. So, but that's basically the SIF money is our piggy bank to balance out the budget is what it amounts to.
What does SIF stand for? It's some sort of ridiculous.
Strategic Investment Fund is what it's.
Strategic Investment and Improvements Fund?
Yeah,
It has some sort of long, convoluted, bureaucratic name.
Well, it used to be the Permanent Oil Tax Trust Fund, but it wasn't very permanent, so we changed it.
It wasn't a trust fund, and it certainly wasn't permanent. It was like the... we should just get honest and just call it the piggy bank or the slush fund or something like that, because it's just something that there's the money, you can go for it. Representative Striley, how do you, what sort of reaction do you have to the idea that one way to solve the problem is to really draw down the reserves?
Well, Dale, and that's where I struggle as a pretty conservative guy is, we do have the Budget Stabilization Fund, which is a really, I think, very important because these are, like Keith said, these are all projections, based on projections. And granted, they're pretty conservative. We know that, and I'm glad that's the case. But we certainly don't want to zero out that fund, I don't think, because it is, it's building, and there's a long formula to get the money to that and to different other funds. So that's where I struggle is that we do need to leave money in these funds. Obviously, we've got the legacy fund. That's a whole other argument. That's put away till 2017. But then we do have to realize that there is investments that we need to make in the infrastructure, and those will pay dividends and generate more tax revenue too. Just like I think cutting taxes generates more revenue over the long haul.
And Dale, I wanted to bring up, and Roscoe, and that's one of the things is this. 2 sessions ago, basically, well, actually 3 sessions ago, we started this infrastructure, this one-time money caveat and that's something that's kind of been missed this session. We've got one-time money in there, but it isn't really talked about a lot, because it has been an ongoing theme. But that's one of the important things is that we are putting a lot of money out in infrastructure. We're going to be just under $3 billion in the DOT budget, county, local, cities, and state highway fund. And that's one of the things I think that people for the most part can see. And that's where a lot of this SIF money does go to, is basically infrastructure type projects.
Representative Fair, what is you're a new member of the legislature. What is your impression of how things are going right now?
Well, it's certainly interesting. Somebody coined the term to me, sausage making, and initially I didn't know what they were talking about, but I get it now. How things are kind of changed, and one bill, money's taken out, or the bill is killed, and then it reappears some other place, and between the policy and appropriations and the House and the Senate, it's real interesting seeing what's the whole process of what's happening.
How do you explain it to your constituents?
Well, first of all, I tell them, I'm learning about sausage making, and then kind of go from there. Kind of some of the things I just mentioned.
Okay. We were talking. Well, first of all, let me just bring this up. It appears that almost all of the major issues the legislature is dealing with are not done. I mean, we have the Department of Transportation, we have higher education, we have human services, we have aid to local schools, we have the how to distribute the oil taxes to local communities, what we call the Hub Cities bill. We don't have a property or an income tax plan. We don't have an agreement on state employee pay or whether to put more money into the state employee pension funds. And we have policy matters such as animal cruelty and drunken driving penalties, and all of these things are up in the air, and tomorrow is day 67, and the month of May looms uncomfortably close, and none of these things are done. What Representative Kempnick, you've been around the longest here. What does this all tell you?
Well, it tells me we got some late nights. I think what's going to happen is I think some of these issues, I think there's going to be some caucus meetings on and get a bigger picture number of where the caucus is at. I think one of the things is, and it's been I was trying to think back. I think 95, 97 was we had a large caucus like the House does now, and it is herding cats. There's no doubt about it. But I think at the end of the day, the caucus is going to have to take a position on some of these key issues, and then the leader's going to have to get that communication to the Senate and vice versa on it. I think that's been going on to a certain degree now. Some of the detail stuff has been an ongoing conversation here the last few weeks. Some of this isn't probably as far apart as we think it is, although some of these issues are. I mean, there's going to be, like I said, there's going to be some late nights to get this all figured out here and get this done, hopefully before the 1st of May.
Is it unusual that we don't have state employee pay and the pension issue locked down right by now?
Well, not really. I was trying to remember which. I think it was the 99 session, if I remember right. I think we went to the final. I think we were in the final day, and it still wasn't locked down yet. I think we had a call of the House, if I remember right.
And you were out of town. I remember that well. You were at some crop adjuster meeting or something.
I was in Fargo. Got a call about 9 o'clock and drove all the way back to
It's
Bismarck
nice to get a call from the Highway Patrol, isn't it?
Oh yeah, or midnight. I guess it was. It wasn't noon. It was midnight. I got into the house, but that was one where they. So it isn't unusual to have this. Truthfully, I don't think they're as far apart as the dollar-wise of what we did on the House. It was more to bend that trajectory of future commitments on the salary issue is probably the House's biggest concern on it, and it probably wasn't so much the dollars spent today as it was the trajectory of going out into the future. So I don't think we're as far apart on that issue as it would look like, but there's some other issues where there's quite a bit of space between it yet.
We should explain what a call of the House is. It's rarely done, and it can be a call of the Senate too. Yep. What happens is that someone can, a member of the House or Senate can get up and ask for a call of the House or the Senate, depending on where that person is serving. And what happens is the doors are closed. The doors to the House or Senate chamber are closed. Senators are not allowed out. And the senators or House members, whatever the case may be, who are out, are rounded up and brought back to the chamber so that everyone is there. And it does make for an interesting situation if someone is out of town. And we've had this situation. It has been rare, but it's quite interesting to have a call of the House. And sometimes people are gone because they have business obligations in their private lives. Sometimes people are gone because they want to be gone. They want to hide for some reason or another, and then the Highway Patrol has to go and find them. And it makes for a rather amusing situation, especially, I guess maybe not amusing for the people who are in the House chamber to begin with and have to kind of gut it out.
Well, that's why they don't have locks on the bathroom door in the house. We won't go there.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. To what extent do you think policy bills might be a wet bundle here in the last days of the session? I mean, is animal cruelty, the final terms of animal cruelty, going to be a big bone of contention, or DUI penalties, perhaps?
I guess I don't think so. They're not that far off on the House and Senate versions of some of the major policy bills. In reality, in my opinion, it might sound cruel, but some of this stuff is really not that important. I mean, the important stuff in my mind is fixing the infrastructure, investing in our cities, in our counties, in our roads, tax relief, and putting a good Republican plan together to drive this economy even further into the future, further growth and long-term success like we have seen the last 3 years.
Representative Fair, what is it that folks back in Dickinson ask you about in terms of what is going on? What are they concerned about?
Well, people are interested in a variety of things, and to some extent it seems to depend on what's coming in front of us right at the moment. There are groups, there are associations, keep track of things, let people know, and they send us emails and phone calls in terms of what's hot in front of us right now. Since the bills are for the most part past us and we're going into conference committee, my contacts, phone calls have really quieted down right now.
Dale, that getting to the animal cruelty one, and truthfully, most of our folks out our way don't see the big uproar on it, but I think to keep it is an issue to a way, and we've had a perfect storm this winter of what that bill's trying to do on it. The sad part is most of them weren't livestock producers on it, and I think that what's going on right now in these conferences, truthfully, I think the advocates of that are not don't have the support of the legislature getting much tougher than what that bill says today. And so, if they keep pushing the issue, it could disappear completely, and maybe that's what they want. Maybe they want to take it back on a ballot again. I don't know, but I think that most players in that issue have come to more or less an agreement of how far they want to go with it, and I think it's going to be an up and down. There might be some little things change on it, but I think that bill's pretty much done as far as what's going to get voted out this session by the legislature, anyways, on it.
How about the drunken driving issue?
Well,
because
Dale, on that, and it comes down to personal responsibility on this issue. It's something that's a legal substance to consume. I think it's a personal responsibility. The genesis of this bill wouldn't have protected what happened last fall, even if this bill was law today. You can mess up somebody's life. They make a mistake when they're younger. That's one of the things I had problems with on the bill that we did amend it down so the jail time wasn't quite, and there wasn't a felony conviction on first offenses. But the repeat offenders, I think that we do have to look at that in a different light. There's no doubt about it. But like I said, those people are breaking umpteen laws, being what happened anyways. So it's something that when you try to legislate morality or responsibility, it never works very well. It doesn't. We can say we did something, but at the end of the day, it's personal responsibility. I don't know how else to say it.
Representative Fair, do you hear very much from your constituents about the DUI legislation in particular?
No, actually not really. I heard a lot about the milk bill. I heard a lot about of course, I'm on the Agriculture Committee, House Agriculture Committee.
Let's talk about the milk bill later. Go ahead, Nick.
Okay. I heard a lot about, believe it or not, the biologics, biosimilars. I was shocked. I was getting tons of letters from people. I had no idea. They didn't reference a bill number, so I didn't know what the issue was for weeks after I started getting stacks of letters coming to me. So. But there have been some issues that people have, and of course the abortion bills. I got a ton of correspondence on those.
The raw milk bill, it has to do with, first of all, in North Dakota, you cannot purchase raw milk from someone. It's illegal. What you can do is purchase a share of a cow. This is called the cow shares bill. You can essentially purchase a share of a dairy cow, which and pay the dairy farmer a fee to cover the cost of the cow's upkeep, and in return you get a portion of milk, however often you like, and maybe cheese or other dairy products from the cow that you own part of. And there is legislation that's going into conference committee actually that would require dairy. One of the things it requires dairy farms to report to the Department of Agriculture if they are in cow share agreements with folks. And it also has some regulations that would apply to cow share agreements. Now, the folks who like to drink raw milk and have cow share agreements with dairy farmers, a number of them I've spoken to, they think that this is intrusive because they say these agreements are going on already, and the Agriculture Department doesn't need a registry of dairy farms that have cow share agreements, and they also think that the state of North Dakota does not make raw milk available to consumers to the extent that it should. And it's really quite fascinating, I think, and it does bring about a number of stories from legislators who grew up on farms and drank raw milk, and they're still with us, obviously, because they're living and breathing and serving in the legislature, because one of the arguments against raw milk is that it can make you sick. And Representative Kempnick, how much have you heard about raw milk regulation?
I was one of those, but the thing is we had 3 cows, so and it was a different day. It's not you're going to get sick per se on it. The problem is that some of these are commercial dairy operations that are selling these cow shares, and truthfully, I think it was illegal before this bill came about to do that, because I think I think there's a federal statute that disallows this, out unless the state puts some type of program together. So I think they were illegal before this bill came about. The way the House amended it down basically requires the registry, but does get it so those people are aware of what they're getting. I mean, because and what it all comes down to is bacteria count is what the ag department's worried about is, and you do get if you do get some of that the wrong kind of bacteria, it can make you very sick. And truthfully, when we did get a pasteurizer eventually, and so we pasteurized a lot of our milk, well, most of it after that I can remember. I know, though, we did drink raw milk too, and truthfully, I didn't notice a difference in taste, but that's just me. So,
Representative Fair, I presume you've gotten quite a bit of information about this issue. What are your own views on it?
Well, and of course, as I mentioned, I'm on the House Ag Committee, so we debated this bill, and our subcommittee came up with the compromise that we eventually voted on. I think it's a good compromise. I thought they did a real nice job. Essentially, where we started from was that raw milk is illegal in the state, and yes, there are the cow shares, and this is kind of a way that people got around the law. And we were essentially being asked by the Ag Commissioner to make cow shares illegal. And instead of doing that, we not only made it legal, but by registering it, it now has if this goes into law, it has the full force of law of the state of North Dakota that it's legal to have cow shares. Prior to this, people were doing it. It seemed to be legal, but there really hadn't been a challenge to it. Now by registering it, and the registration is very benign. It's just name and address of the dairy. So it now says, gives the full force to law to say it's legal in the state to have cow shares.
What do you think about this, Representative Striley? Have you heard much about it?
Oh, yeah, so quite a bit, actually, from my not surprisingly. But I think the House version is much better, but it just really frustrates me that we get into the government just really has no business being in any of these kind of issues. That's where I struggle with just let people do what they want to do on these type of issues and some of the others. In going to another milk issue, I mean, we've got kids not getting enough milk, and this, I mean, we've talked about milk more than we've talked about the $2 billion that needed out west. That's the frustrating part to me. And it's political games on a lot of it, which is kind of frustrating. But I think the focus really needs to get off some of these minor issues and back on to where we should be as tax cuts and infrastructure investments to grow our state into the future.
What you said earlier about how some of the issues that we've been talking about in the end are fairly minor in comparison to others, it made me think of something that a former North Dakota House Majority Leader, John Dorso, he's a Republican from Fargo, and he liked to say this. He would say, "We don't need Bill X, whatever it was, we don't need this to adjourn." Meaning we can kill it and there's no problem. It's not a budget bill. We don't need it to adjourn. And that was a point that he liked to make. Where do you think that this, Representative Kepnick, where do you think that this Pub Cities concept is going to end up?
Well, I think House, it probably is going to come down to the dollar amounts. I think the concept will stay in place because there's no real way of addressing it outside of that. Because what the Senate did is took and put $250 million into the impact fund, and that is not the way to address the big cities of the oil patch issues, because they are different than what's going on in the rest of the oil patch on it. So
we've been speaking to Keith Kempnick. He's the vice chairman of the House Appropriations Committee, a Republican from Bowman. We've also been speaking to Representative Roscoe Striley, a Republican from Minot and a member of the House Appropriations Committee. And we've also been talking this evening to Representative Alan Fair, a Republican from Dickinson, who is one of the new members of the North Dakota Legislature. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming. This has been the Legislature Today radio show. My name is Dale Wetzel, and we will be back tomorrow night. One of our guests will be Attorney General Wayne Stenjum.
The Legislature Today is brought to you in part by Prairie Outpost Log Home, your custom lifestyle.